learning C, and maybe what are the differences on C and C++? Yes, some might have a confusion there. What are we using? Is it C or C++? So basically, C is a general purpose programming language created by Dennis Rich at Bell Laboratories in 1972. And also, it is a very popular language, despite being old. I'm sure if you go on YouTube, if you just search C programming, you see that there are a lot of people who are actually explaining or try to teach this language. It's a very, very old language, but it's a very, very popular one. The main reason for its popularity is because it is a fundamental language in the field of computer science. This is the basic language that you need to learn. If you want to do computer programming, this is mostly where you are supposed to start so that it will be very, very easier for you. I'm trying to see, I'm sure there's someone who is not muted here. Um, let's try to be always on mute. Yes, okay. So why do we learn C? We learn C because it is one of the most popular programming language in the world. Also, if you know C, you have no problem learning other popular programming languages such as Java, Python, C++, C Sharp, and many more. Why? Because the syntax there is similar. If you look for C++, it's just an advancement from C program. The Java itself is just an advancement from C programming. A for loop in C program is just is the same as the for loop in C++ as well as in Java. So what could be the difference between C and C++? So a C++ was developed as an extension of C, and both languages have almost the same syntax. Also, the main difference between these two languages is that C++ supports classes, objects, and objects, while C does not. So the C++ now is the object-oriented programming language, or is the version of that C, but now it supports what you call object-oriented. Don't worry about these terms. You understand them later as you'll be doing object-oriented programming. But for now, we are going to fully focusing on C, which is a functional-oriented programming language. Why? Because it uses the concept of functions here. So now this is just the get started. Let's go for the get started tutorial so that we know what do we need for us to be able to code using C programming. You do not need much. You just need maybe two basic things that you need, and maybe you can get it as just as a single one unit. So to start using C, what you need are two things, which is the text editor, like Notepad, that you need to write the C code, right? And then you need the compiler and mostly the GCC to translate the C code that you have wrote into the language that the computer will understand. Remember that your machine doesn't understand those characters that you'll be writing, right? So the machine understands binary, understands the machine language. So we need to translate that code that you have wrote in C to the actual machine language. And it is this compiler that can help you to translate the language into the machine language. Just like maybe you don't speak Ndebele and someone is trying to speak to you using that language, so you need a translator, something like that. So there are many text editors and compilers to choose from. And in this tutorial, we use what we call an IDE, which is an integrated development environment. So this IDE comes with everything, with the text editor and the compiler that we're talking about. So you can just add your code within the within the IDE as well as running your code within the IDE. So for this one, they were just you are going through some of the IDE that you can use, which is mostly the code blocks. You can use the Eclipse. You can also use the Visual Studio or the VS Code. You can also use the Dev C, Dev C++. There are a lot of C IDEs that you can use there, right? And mostly for this one, it was just a tutorial for installing the code blocks. I'm not going to go through this, but you can quickly go and download either code blocks, VS Code. If you download VS Code, there are a lot of configurations that you're supposed to do there for you to be able to run your code. So maybe it will be easier for you to go through the code blocks and maybe the Dev C++. For today, I'm just going to use this VS Code, but I also have Dev C++ installed on my machine. I can also use that one as well. So it's just a matter of your choice. And then there's what you call a syntax in C programming. This is just like a grammar. If you heard about the word syntax in the programming, you need to know that we are talking of a grammar, right? So syntax just a grammar or the rules that you need to follow when you're writing C programming. So you have already seen the following code a couple of times in the first chapters. So let's break it down. So here we are just trying to look at the basic syntax for C programming or the basic C program structure. Something like that. So if you look at this one, there's this example which is with the hash include stdio.h, which is a header file, and then there is this int main. Is that a contribution? Okay, let's try to make sure that you're always on mute. Okay, so we have got this int main. We are going to talk about this. What are these things? Then we've got this printf, return 0, and this closing curly bracket. So let's explain this hash include stdio.h file. So this one we call it a header file library that lets us work with input and output functions such as the printf as well as the scanf. So for you to be able to print out to the screen to tell the user what to do or whatever, you need this header file or you need this library. So for you to be able to use it in your code, you need to call it or you need to include it, something like that. So how do you include it? You use this preprocessor directive that we call the hash include there. So you say hash include and then you put the library that you want to include. So for us, we need to use the printf, want to print to the screen. So you need to put the standard input output header file, the stdio. It's not to studio, it's stdio, standard input output header file, right? And then there is this blank line. Normally the the compiler normally ignores those white spaces or those blank lines. And another thing that always appear in a C program is the main. We call it the main function. This one is very, very important. You cannot have a C program language that you are going to execute without the main function. Why? Because that's where the program execution is going to begin, right? So if you say run this program, the program execution is going to start in that function, not the main. All right. So if you leave, if you forgot to put that function, then nothing's going to is going to be executed on your program. And then there is the printf function. This one's just there to print out to the screen whatever text that you want to print. And then there is this return 0 statements. This one shows the end of the main function. Since it is the end of the main function, also it is the end of your program. So if you say return 0, you are telling the operating system that, please, this function finished its execution and please exit this program. So the operating system will automatically terminate that program when it sees that return 0. So make sure that you do not put anything that you want to be executed below that return 0 statement. If I try to print something here, Maybe if I say hello here, let's see what will happen if I try to do this. You see that I'll get nothing. Why? Because I'm trying to print, yet the program is already exited. So if you want to do so, it's good, or you are supposed to do it above here. Okay, you're supposed to do it above here. So if I run this, I'll get this output as hello, something like this. So it's very, very simple, very, very basic, but you need to understand those basics. Okay, so this is like the basic structure of a C program. At the top, we're going to have what we call the preprocessor directives, including the libraries, whatever what you are doing there. And then here, where we have got the white space, this one we call it a global space. That's where you declare what you call variables. Don't worry, we're going to talk about variables, but that's where you declare those global variables that you want to be accessed by any function that you're going to create. And then after that, you put the main function, and below that, maybe you can put any other function that you want to put. So basically, that's the structure of a C program. And then let's talk about what we call a statement, right? So a computer program is a list of instructions to be executed by a computer, right? So in a programming language, these programming instructions, we call them what? Statements. So any single line that you put there in your program, you call it a statement, because it's an instruction that you're giving to a computer to do something. So like this one, to print the hello world, the printf hello world, it's a single statement there, right? So it is important that you need you end the statement with a semicolon. This one, a lot of people will say my program is not executing, I'm getting errors just by forgetting to put that semicolon. So at the end of every line, you need to put that semicolon to mark the end of a statement. It's just very, very simple, very, very basic, but trust me, it's obvious that at some day you are going to run into that problem, especially if you are going to code a little larger program. It's very, very easier to miss that semicolon. But because now you know, you need to quickly to check on that. Is it not that simple thing that I'm missing on my code? Okay, so many statements in C programming. So most C programs contain many statements. So the statements are executed one by one in the same order as they are written. Just like this one that we have, hello, world, have a good day. So if I put this one here and try to execute this, let's see what I'm going to get. If I compile and run this, I'll get hello world, have a good day, something like that. So if you look at this, it starts by executing this and then followed by this. And that's why we have got this output. Also take a look at this, if you look at the stats of the execution of a program, it is starting here on the main function. So please, guys, let's make sure that every program that you're going to write, you've got the main function, right? Yes. So tiduzona kuexam one wachinyore zvinhu zvisina main function, and it. So this one was just an explanation. Now let's look at the output, like how do you print? We have used this function before. Like here, we were printing this hello world, have a good day. So it's just trying to tell us how can we print if you want to print out to the screen. So to output values or print text in C, you can use the printf function. Just as simple as this, right? But please do not forget to put this library there at the top. If you forget to do that, it's obvious that you are going to run into an error. Why? Because for this one to work, this printf hello world, it needs this library, right? As simple as that. Remember, here I'm just putting this printf, and then now I'm seeing my output here, which means this library is the one which is handling all the code to actually put that text on the screen. I'm just telling it that go and print this on the screen, but how is it printing that to the screen? I don't know. Why? Because it is already written in this library. So that's the very, very reason that we need this stdio.h or this standard input output header file. Why? Because this is the file with the code on how to print it to screen. Otherwise, you are supposed to handle that. You are supposed to first write the code on how to print it to screen, and then you give it what to print. But here, because it is already done, we just give it what to print, and it does that for us. So your work is to import it, and then you print whatever you want to print. Okay. So when you are working with the text, it must be wrapped inside double quotes marks. Yeah, this one is very, very important. If you are working with the text like what you are doing here, it's very, very important that you put the text in double quotes, right? It's very, very important that you put the text in double quotes. Otherwise, you'll get an error like what is happening here. I'm trying to print hello world, but I'm putting the single quotes. So if you put single quotes there, it will take maybe like character or so, but yet it's a string. So if you're working with the strings there, please put those double quotes. Is as easy as that, then you'll be good to go. Okay, so for printing variables, what we are going to talk about that later. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that later when you know that what are these things that we call variables. And then guys, if you see what is happening here, if I print something, I'm getting hello world, have a good day. But look at this. I was supposed to get maybe some space or maybe to skip a line. Because here I've printed this at the top and this one is below, but it's just printing everything in a line. So how do you do that? How do you escape to go to a new line? This is through, you can do it through this, the help of this \n. So this one, to insert a new line, you can use this \n character. We call them escape characters. There are many that you can use, escape characters that you can use. But for this very, very functionality of skipping to a next line, you can just use the \n and then you'll be good to go. There are these other escape characters. So if I put this \n here, what it means is that after writing hello world, skip a line and then write whatever comes next to a new line, which means here I'm going to write have a good day on the next line. Okay, so here I'm getting hello world, then skip a line, have a good day, something like that. So as simple as that. That's what you need to do. Maybe someone can also just get the same result by putting the /n maybe at the beginning of this line. So I'm saying before you write anything, just start by skipping a line and then write this thing. So say it's just going to give us the same output. So it's just a matter of your choice. So there are other escape characters like this one, the tab key, which put some space. If I put this one, it's just a tab key. You know the tab key that you have on your keyboard, that one is the tab key. So if you look at it, it's going to give me maybe some 5 spaces there between this string and this string. So it's going to say hello world, then jump some space and then print what comes next, something like that. So that's how you escape. So if you want to write the double quotes in your code, you need to put the / and then you put the double quotes. Yes, there might be some scenario where you want to write the double quotes. You need to do so. So the / is the one that you escape a special character which is being used by the C programming language itself. And then let's look at what we call statements. Remember, it is very, very important to write what we call comments, or not a statement, but comments. It is very, very important to write comments whenever you are doing programming. It is very, very important. So that I'm just checking if I need to add some people, but I don't think I need to do so. Okay, so Tim, it's very, very important to write comments when you're actually coding. Why? Because sometimes you are not the only one who is going to work on that program. Maybe you are going to have others work on that program. So maybe if you are not there, they can also go through the document and see the explanation and see what you're trying to achieve and what you were doing. So guys, it is very, very important. So comments can be used to explain the code, to make it more readable. It can also be used to prevent execution when testing alternative code. So yes, you can use it for debugging purposes. Okay, like if I comment this out, what will happen? Maybe you are trying to find where the error is coming from, something like that. So there's what you call a single line comment and multiple comments. These are very, very simple. For a single line comment, if you just want to comment out a single line, you just need to put double forward slashes. Like here, if I want to comment out, have a good day. If I do not want to say so, I can just comment it out. And if I run this, you see that I'm just going to have hello world. All right. So I comment this out. So what happens is that when the compiler is compiling this code, it's going to ignore this line and only compile those lines which are not comments. Okay. So this one, you can do it maybe mostly if you want to debug. Otherwise, you are supposed to comment at the front of the line and then say that maybe here I'm doing this, maybe I'm printing. Whatever you are doing, you can write whatever you want to write as a comment. Here you can comment this one. So that's a single line comment. It's just one line that you comment, but everything that follows is not a comment, something like that. That's a single line comment. That's a single line comment. Okay, like here, this is a comment. Like here, this is a comment. So there's also what you call a multi-line comments. This is where you want to comment maybe more than one line. Yes, it happens like this one, this code below, we print this and what. So maybe you want to write something longer. You can also have you can also comment out multiple lines, right? Also, maybe for debugging purposes, if you want to comment more lines, you can also do that. Like here, maybe if I want to comment multiple lines, maybe all these lines, what I'm supposed to do is very, very simple. I can put forward slash, then I put a star. Okay, it's putting this for me, the closing one. So to close it, you just need to put this one as well, something like this. So if you look at it, I've commented all these lines by putting the forward slash and then this asterisk or this star, and then you close by putting the star first and this forward slash. So anything between these things will become a comment. So that's how you put multiple or multi-line comment in C programming, as easy as that. So now let's look at what you call variables. You need to understand variables in C programming. It's not a big deal. It's it's something which is very, very simple, but I think you need to also take it not as something which is simple so that at least you grasp the whole concept about variables. Yeah. So if you are talking about variables, whether you're in C programming, whether you are in Java, that's the beauty of doing C programming. Almost everything that you're talking about here is also valid on any other language that you are going to do. Yet here you enjoy the simplicity of C programming. So the C variables now is just take it as a storage or a memory location, right? Where you store the data during the execution of your program. Remember, you want to store the data somewhere, manipulate it where it is there, and then give the output. So for you to have somewhere to store, you need memory, and that memory is the one that we are calling a variable. So variables are just containers or a memory space or a memory location for storing data values like numbers and characters. So in C, there are different types of variables defined with the different keywords. For example, you can have int, float, you can have characters as well. That's as simple as that, right? Float for handle those numbers with the decimals. You can have int to handle those numbers, which are integers. You can have characters to handle characters. And in C, normally by default, you do not have strings. So you can also use characters to create what you, to create what you call an array of characters, so that maybe you can store someone's name, someone's surname, whatever you want to write there, something like that. So now let's talk about how do we declare or create variables in C program. I know you've done this before. Most of you have done it, but it's always good to try to take it like you didn't do it before, so that we do not create chaos. Okay, so let me take out all this. Let me just take out all this. Okay, so now let's look at how do we declare an integer variable. If you want to declare an integer variable, you can just say int, then a. As simple as that. You've declared the variable, right? This is just a declaration of a single variable. So what does this do, or what does this try to tell us to a computer? It is saying to a computer, put aside some memory that is called A, and on that memory, I'm going to store an integer value later on, right? As the program progresses, something like that. So what does it do is that the computer itself, when you run this, it will create some memory space there, some special memory space for storing an integer type somewhere there, and then whenever you want to store a value there, you can store. So there's what you call declaration and initialization. You can do what you call declaration as well as initialization, where you can just say int a, then you initialize a value maybe like 10. This one you call it declaration and initialization. You are declaring at the same time you are putting a value to that memory space. So you are declaring and put 10 into A. So A is going to hold a value, because remember we said A is a memory location. So 10 is going to be stored in A. So this one in programming, we do not call it an equal sign. It's an initialization operator. Guys, take note of that. It's an initialization operator. It will become an equal sign if you put them as double equal signs, this one. Okay, so here we have declared a variable and stored the value there. So the int there is just a keyword to tell that this variable is going to be an integer. You can do this as well. Also, you can do what you call, like here, we can also print this number if I want. I can say print f. All right. Here I can just put, instead of putting just a here, what I'm supposed to do is maybe, okay, I wanted to put something like if you put an A here just directly, I just wanted you to see this. If you put an A here directly, this one's going to give you an error. Why? Because this printf here, if you just put anything here, it will take, yes.
Apologies. There's a message in the chat.
Okay.
From Kodakwashi Mapfumo saying some people from the group said they want to join and they've been waiting for a while. Maybe if you could check.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's why I said people need to join earlier, so that when I present, thank you for that. Yeah, there were a lot of them. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that. For those who are just joining, make sure that you are always on mute. Let's make sure that you are always on mute and your video camera is switched off. But thank you for that. Thank you. I forgot. I have actually forgot to to keep on checking on them. Okay, so here I was trying to say that this printf function have got some format of taking things there and print to screen that you need to follow. So if you want to print out a variable to screen, there's something that you need to follow, or the syntax or the grammar that you need to follow there. So if you just put an A there, it doesn't understand what's that you're putting there. So you need to put what you call this placeholder. For an integer, you put this percentage D here if you want to print something. If you want to print an integer, and then here you put the variable name. So what it does is that it is going to take this A and put the value of A and put it there, something like that. So if I run this, I'm sure I'm going to get 10 here. So maybe now you can write that here the value, maybe the value of A is something like this. So it is just going to, the value of A is, and then where it is supposed to put this percentage D, it will take it as something, some sort of placeholder, and then it will take the value of A and store it here, something like this. So that's how you print out these values from variables. Just as simple as that. It's not that big deal. It's just very, very simple. Just as simple as that. Okay, so that's how you declare variable. And here you've demonstrated using an integer. Maybe you can also declare multiple variables in a line. You can also declare multiple variables. Like here I can say int b. Maybe I can put 20 there. Can so C there. Can put 30 there. It's also allowed. Why? Because these variables are of the same type. You cannot declare an integer and then you try to put characters here. So if you say int and you want to declare more than one variable at the same time, make sure that the variables that you are putting in this line are all going to be an integer variable type. Otherwise, you get an error when you are trying to now initialize them later here. So that's what it is. You can also do the same with a float. Maybe float, my float, something like that. You can put any name that you need to put. Maybe I can put 2.5 here. You can also declare variables just like this. But for float here, you put percentage F. And then here you write maybe my float, something like this. And then you can execute and you get this number here. Don't worry about those zeros, whatever. Those are the numbers after the decimal places, whatever, after a comma. So it's just putting zeros there because we've got 2.5 here. Okay, so team, that's how you declare variables. That's how you name variables in C programming. So now let's talk about these format specifiers that I was saying, the placeholders. They are normally called format specifiers in C programming. And we have already covered it and we've used it. So maybe I'll just explain and pass through. I'll just pass through. So format specifiers are used together with the printf function to tell the compiler what types of data the variable is storing. So it is basically a placeholder for the variable value. So a format specifier starts with a percentage sign and followed by a character. And that character normally is the one that tells us which type of variable are you dealing with. So for example, to output the value of an int variable or of an integer variable, you use the format specifier percentage %D. For a character, use percentage %C. For a float, use percentage %F, something like that. For a string, you use percentage %C. So here, this was just an example printing out all these numbers. So for characters, that's how you declare character, and you put a single quote there because it's a character. It's not a string. You do not do not put double quotes. If you put double quotes, you are going to get some errors there. Okay, so now let's talk about how do you change values in a variable. How do you change values in a variable? It's very, very simple. You just reassign and override the value which is already in the variable. If I want to change the value of this my float, what I'm just going to do is to reassign and put the value that I want. So I'll just say my float, and then I'll put the new value that I want to put there. So you see, you've seen that when I was declaring, I give it a value, this one, but I changed it later to 3.7. So if I run it like this, I'm sure I'm going to get this 3.7, just like this, right? Very simple. So that's how you change the value. So you can even use another variable to change the value of another variable. It's doable as well, like here, like what's happening here. They've declared this my num is an integer value, then declare another value, my other number, and then they are taking the value of my number into this. So you are assigning or you are reassigning the value of my num. So we are replacing this 15 with this 23. And take note of that. This, my other number, will remain 23. It's not like we are cutting or we are taking the value and put it here and leave this one without its value. No, you are just copying the value from here to here, something like that. And then here we are just printing. So normally, that's how you declare, that's how you print variables. And then there's this one of adding variables. If you want to add variables, don't worry, I'm going to cover it when you're doing operators. You can add, you can subtract, whatever. If you want to declare multiple variables, I've already covered this one. I'm not going to look at it. I've already covered this one. Now let's look at the variables names. You've seen me putting A, B, C in my float here. So what am I trying to, what am I following there? What are the rules am I following there for me to just put A, just put B and not having an error? So these variable names have got the rules that you need to follow. Also take note that we also call them identifiers, right? So you might see that you might be asked that what could be the rules of naming identifiers in C programming? You call it an identifier because we use it to identify each and every variable, each and every function on our program. So normally identifiers, these rules that we are talking about applies to the way that we name variables and also maybe the way that we name also functions there. All right, so all variables must be identified with the unique names. So we are not going to have 2, 3 different variables with the same name. No, they must be unique. So these unique names are called identifiers, and the identifiers can be short names like X, Y, Z, or maybe more descriptive names like age, sum, total volume. And note that it is recommended to use descriptive names in order to create understandable variables so that for you yourself, it will be actually easier to know that the variable that I'm working with, this one, code this is there for me to store this. Rather, if you just call it X, you might forget as you go down with the program that this X is storing what. So if you are going to store age, just say int age so that you know that this variable called age is storing age. So the general rules for naming variables or for naming identifiers are that names can contain letters, digits, and underscores. So you're allowed to put letters in your name, in a variable name, some digits as well, and the underscore as well. But names must begin with a letter or any underscore. I cannot begin the name of this variable with a number and say 1A. There's no such a name for a variable that begin with a number. So it's a must that the name must start with a letter or an underscore. And names are case sensitive. You need to know that. A variable called myvar with this capital letter V and this one called myvar with this small letter v are totally different in C programming. So please, if you say age with the small letters, let it remains like that. Otherwise, you'll get some error. Also, names cannot contain white spaces or special characters like these ones. Right? So atizode variable rakanzi my float, something like this, where you put some white space in between, you are going to get some errors there. Also, reserved words such as int cannot be used as names. Guys, there are those that we call keywords or reserved words. Those words which are reserved for the compiler or for the C programming language itself. Like wana int, like float, like wana main, like this, they include keyword, the return keyword. Those words are reserved for the C programming language itself. So you cannot use it as the names of variables. Why? Because they've got a special meaning in the C programming language itself. So if you put it trying to name it as a variable, then the C programming language, now we confuse it with the meaning that it already has. So please avoid or do not use the keywords as the names of variables. Okay. So now let's look at, we've been talking about the variables, the data types. I think I've been talking about this, how this one you can use percentage C, percentage F for that one. Yes, we've got also a double there for variables. Yes, we've got what we call a double, which have got a double precision than this float that we have. The float have got 6 to 7 decimal digits, but this one can have up to 15 digits. Also, we've got character. And then these are format specifiers for integer. You can use percentage D, for float percentage F, or this percentage F with the calculator, or for this one, or you can use a percentage I there. For double there, it's percentage F. Then for character, it's percentage C. And then percentage
Say,
S. Yes.
apologies. I think somebody wants to be joined into the meeting again.
Okay, it's okay. Then there are these for percentage S for a string, but for this one, don't worry, we're going to talk about it. It's a special case in C programming. You do not have a string, so there's a class that we can import to use for us to directly work with the strings. Otherwise, we need to use the concept of arrays. So for character, guys, I'm not going to spend much of our time on this one. Numbers, whatever, the numeric numbers, for these ones, you can go and explore as you work on them. But guys, it's very, very simple. If it's a float, you know what to do with it, and you know the specific format specifier to use. Maybe now we can look at this, what you call constants in C programming. There's what you call a constant. So if you don't want others or yourself to change existing variables values, you can use the constant keyword from the word constant itself. So you can use this const keyword. This will declare the variable as a constant, and which means that that variable is unchangeable and it's a read only. So if I make this variable constant, this my float. So if I say like this one constant, so if I try to change the value here, I'm going to get an error. Why? Because I've made it constant there. So it will be a read only variable. So you can do it maybe if you are asked to find the area, you know, there's pi r squared and the pi is always a constant. You can mark pi there as a constant there so that it will not be changed, something like that. So there are those special variables that do not need to be changed, like this one constant in the minutes per hour. We know that 60 minutes always makes an hour there. So let's now look at what we call operators. There's what we call operators, and most of them, you know them. Maybe there are very, very few that you need maybe some introduction, but otherwise, for the basic addition operator, you know it. You have been doing mathematics, adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying. In mathematics, you have been doing that, and you know what does it mean to say 100 plus 50, and now you know the result, that the result is going to be 150. So if you want to add two numbers, to add three numbers, you can use this plus operator to perform addition of either values or variables, something like that. So if I want to add A and B, what I can do here is I can say, maybe let me just have another variable here that I can call result for it to make sense, and it will have a 0 by default. So I can say results. I can say result maybe it's going to be initialized a value of a plus b, What it means is that I'm going to take this 10, add it to 20, and then I'll store the result in this variable called result. So you can name it the way you want, but for me, I name it result. So here I'm going to put result when I'm printing, and I'm also supposed to put %d. And if I run this, I'm sure I'm going to get the value of a. Oh no, so the result is not the value of a, but the result. Now the result is 30. Okay, so this is what I'm getting here. So it's very, very simple to program, but maybe you just need to understand the basics. So that's how you add two numbers. So you can add as many numbers as you want. They just need to be numbers, right? Yes. So I can also even add C here. Like what you have been doing in mathematics also applies here. The use of body mass, whatever, those things also applies here. So it's just a matter of be able to use even the brackets. You can use them here if there is what you think this one is supposed to be done first, and then do this whatever. You can use all those things. All right, so that's what you can do. You can also add maybe even a specific value here. Instead of putting a C there, I can also put a 40 there and run it. It can just add those things, and I'll get a 7. The result is 700. The y was 10 plus 20, then plus this 40, which is here. So you can even add a variable and a number, even a variable and a variable, something like that. So these operators normally they come as arithmetic operators, and they come as assignment operators, the comparison operators, the logical operators, the bitwise operators. But for us, we are going to cover the arithmetic operators, assignment operators. We have done them, but we are also going to cover them, comparison operators, maybe the logical operators only. So now on arithmetic operator, for the addition, we've already covered it. Now for the subtraction, it's just the same like what you're doing, but now we are subtracting. So instead of adding, maybe I can put some minus here and maybe a minus here. So for subtracting here, guys, it's just like what you used to do. So here I'm getting a minus 50. I'm saying 10 minus 20 to get a minus 10 there, and the minus 40 and minus 40 you're going to get a minus 50 there. So it's just like what we used to do in mathematics. X minus 5, whatever, 20 minus 5, something like that. And then for multiplication, it's just the same. I can multiply here. And now this is where the body mass, whatever, is going to be applied. I'm not going to look into this, but this is what I'm going to get. So it is just going to say 10 minus 20. It's minus 20 times 40, and then plus a, something like that or whatever. But here is just a matter of this multiplication is going to affect this b and 40 here. So if I can also say b times 40, something like that, and I'll get 800. So it's just a matter of understanding what does this do. What does this do? Also, you can divide using what you call the division here. You can also divide and store the result. Because I want to divide, I can say this one divided by this. But what happens is, if I do this, what happens is I'm going to get a 0 here. Why? Because it's going to round off. Remember, this one is an integer, so it's going to automatically round off and display an integer here, right? So be guided there. You need to use the float and the doubles normally when you are dividing. So if I say b divided by 2, b is what? It's 20. So 20 divided by 2, I'm going to get a 10, something like that. And then there is this, which is the special one that I was talking about, and this remaining. These are the ones that you need to give attention. Why? Because normally we do not use them on the arithmetic side. We do not use them directly. So this one, the percentage sign, you call it a modulus. What does it do? It returns the division remainder. So it returns a remainder after dividing. So if I exchange this one with a modulus or something like the percentage, this one, if I replace the division, instead of getting a 10 there, it is going to say 20 divided by 2 is 10, remainder 0. So it is going to give us the remainder, right? So if I run this, I'm going to get this 0. Yes, this 0. I'm going to get this 0. So the result is 0. Why? Because the remainder after dividing 20 by 2 is 0. So this one is a remainder operator or equate a modulus. So B modulus 2 or 20 modulus 2, you are going to get a 0. So this one is the one that you are going to use. If you are being asked, check if a number is an even number or is an odd number, you can use this operator. If you divide the number and and give you a remainder of 0, it means that that number is a what? Is an even. If you divide the number and get a remainder of 1, that number is odd. So this is the operator that you are going to use. Very simple and very easy things to do. Then there is what you call an increment operator and decrement operator. Increment, which is a plus plus, and decrement, a minus minus. What does it do? It adds a 1 to the value of that variable. So if you say x plus plus, it is going to increment that variable by 1. If you say b plus plus, is going to increment that variable by 1. If you say b minus minus, it is going to decrement that variable by 1. Just as simple as that. So maybe the issue is how to do it. Yes. I think pane munhu akadotshaya kutaura something. Was it a contribution or a question? Okay, let's make sure that we are always on mute. Let's make sure that we are always on mute. It will be very, very smooth for us. Let's make sure that we are always on mute. Okay. I was talking about the increment and decrement operator. How does this work? If I want to, okay, let me just say here, that's very simple. Okay, this result, all right, let me say, not this result. Let me use something like a plus plus, and then here I want to print the value of a. I want you to see what will happen here. If I print the value of a after doing a plus plus, the value of a was 10. So what could be the value of a after this a plus plus? You see that the result is 11, or the value of a now is what? Is 11. What had happened is that we've incremented the value of a by 10, by 1, sorry. So let me try to do it here, directly here, and I'll say a plus plus and see what I will get. Let me just see what I'll get. Oh, I'm getting 10. I wanted to explain this very, very simple concept on this increment operator. If you say a plus plus, what does it mean? What it means is that first use the value of a and then increment it by 1. So if you want the immediate result to be used after incrementing a by 1, you need to start by plus plus and then you put a at the end. This will mean that I want to increment the value of a by 1 and then use the value of a. So instead of getting a 10 here, you will now get an 11. Why? Because it is going to first increment the value of a and then use the value of a here. It's very, very important to understand that. It's just the same with the decrement operator. So here I can also do the decrement operator. First, decrement the value of a and then use it, which means I'm going to get a 9 here. I can do the same by saying a minus minus, but what does it do? It is going to first use the value of A, which is going to give me a 10, and then later on store the and then later on put 9 in A, something like that. So you need to understand this when you're using the decrement and incrementing operator, right? So now let's look at what's called the assignment operators. This one is the first assignment operator that we've done, which is that symbol single equal sign. If you want to assign a value in X, you can just say if X is equal to 5, it will take this value and put it in the memory address of of X, sorry. And then there are these shorthand that you can use that we call the assignment operators. These ones, they are more like a shorthand of doing things. But don't worry, you can explore more of this on your own. Try, you can go to W3 Schools, you can click this try, you can see what does it do there. But mostly, let me just do the very most common one, like this one, the plus equal this assignment operator. What does it do? If I say maybe result, let me just use the A. I'm sure we already have an A. Yes, we already have an A. Let me remove this here. Okay, so let me just say A plus equal to maybe I'll put B there. So what does this do? Yes.
Apologies. Somebody's asking to check your admission tab again.
Yeah, Chaita challenge, Pap. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's why it is very important to make sure that we join earlier. That's why it's very important that we join earlier. Okay, so now let's look at this. If I say A plus is equal to B, what does it do? This one, let me run this. You are going to see the result. The result is where am I getting the error? Where am I getting the error there? Okay, so I've put that there was a space here. I wasn't supposed to put that space. Okay, so what is happening here? I'm getting a 30. Why am I getting a 30? If I say A plus equal to B, it is going to take this 20 and add it to the value of B. So this one, guys, just a shorthand of writing. Let me put a comment of writing A is equal to A plus B, something like this. So this one, so this, what we have here, it's a shorthand of writing this. So that's why I call it is assignment. It's an assignment operator. So it's a shorthand of say A is equals to A plus B. You can just A plus equal to B. So what does it do? It takes the value of A, and then add it to B, and then store the result in what? In A, something like that. That's why you've got here 10 plus 20, and then store the result in A as 30, and then print it here. That's why we are getting a what? A 30 here, something like that. So you can do the same, so you can do the same with all these minus, equal. It's just the same as a shorthand of doing this, just a shorthand of doing that. And then there are what you call booleans or boolean values. These ones are very important, very important when it comes to programming. So very often in programming, but you need a data type that can only have one of two values, like yes or no, like on, off, or true or false. And for that, in C programming, we've what you call a bool for Boolean values. So that data type, which is known as Booleans, Booleans represent values that are either true or false. So in C, the Boolean type or the bool type is not a built-in data type. So for you to use it, you need to include this library, the stdbool.h, and you can actually store the true or false there. But normally you can use either 1 or 0. So you can use maybe integers to indicate which is 0 or 1 there to indicate, like when you are printing, it will be just a 0 or 1. So this library is the one which will be doing the magic there for this true and false to use it, and you can print them as what, as integers, as one or zero. So 0 for false and 1 for what, for true. So this library is very, very important, but don't worry, I'm not going to look into it. You can experiment with it, you can put it and experiment with it. And then this one will lend us at these very, very important things which are here. So normally for today, we are going to do the if else switch, maybe a while, a for whatever, where there or whatever. But on our next tutorial, we need to make sure that we cover what we call arrays, pointers, structures. Yeah, we need to cover that as well. So that we'll be able to actually write the code as well as functions. We need to cover functions for this module so that it will be actually easier for us to write our codes and experiment whatever and preparing for the exams. So for today, let's look at the switch. Not at the switch, but at the if, else, and else if and nested if statements. So team, there is these conditions in the if statements. You need to understand what are these conditions and what are if statements and when to use them, something like that. So you have already learned that C supports the usual logical conditions for mathematics, like the less than. Oh, I think I jump these operators, like the less one, the less than, the greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. I jumped this when we were doing operators. Yes, we're supposed to look at these logic operators. We have done the arithmetic operators only. We're supposed to do the logic operators, which are the greater than or equal to, the less than or equal to, the greater than, the not equal to, where you want to compare maybe things to see if they are less than or equal to, they are greater than or equal to, they are greater than, they are less than, or maybe they are equal, something like that. Or maybe they are not equal. So maybe for you to be able to use those conditions now, you can make use of the if statement there. So you can use these conditions to perform different actions for different decisions. C has the following conditional statements, like use if to specify a block of code to execute or to be executed if a specified condition is true, and also use the else statement to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false, and also use the else if to specify a condition to test if the first condition is also false. And then you can also use a switch to specify many alternative blocks of code to be executed. You look at the switch later. So if this the if statement is very, very simple, you need to use the if statement to specify a block of code to be executed if the condition is true. So you say if, and then you put the condition here. If the condition is true, then you write whatever you want to be executed there. Let me check if I've got other people who want to join. Okay. So what I can do here is, okay, I want to demonstrate the use of the if statement. Okay, so I want to check if, and then I will do something. So I want to check if this variable A, right? I'm addicted to copy and paste. I was just supposed to type A there. So I want to check if A is greater than B, and then I want to print that A is greater than B. Allow me to cut and paste. That's what I do the most. And it's very, very good, guys, to copy and paste. Yes, to copy what others have done, copy and paste. It's very, very good. But guys, please don't copy what you do not understand. For me, I copy because I'm seeing and I know what I'm doing. So please avoid that. So here I'm just going to say that A is greater than B. So this A is greater than B, right? So if I run this, Am I going to get anything? Yes, A is greater than B. Okay, let's look at the values of A. Oh, I changed these values here. Let me comment out this one. Okay, so here A is 10 and B is 20. What is going to happen? I'm going to get nothing here. Yes, yes. Why? Because this A is not greater than B. So this one is going to check, is A greater than B? If it is true, it is going to print this one. So it's not true. It's not going to print that A is greater than B. So what is it going to print? Nothing, because I didn't put anything after that. All right. So now that's the if. Like here, if 20 is greater than 18, print this 20 is greater than 18, something like that. So you can also use variables like what I've done here. If A is greater than B, so you can even put the numbers directly, or you can use the variables there to make your condition there. So now let's talk about the else part of it. If the condition fails, you need something to be executed. Like here, if this one is not greater than this one, okay, so I need to put an else statement, right? So the else now doesn't have a condition. Just say if, and then you put the else like this. And then what do? I'll print F, that I'll print that no B is greater than something like this. B is greater than A. Then you are good to go. If I run this, now I'm getting that B is greater than A. Why? Because for sure A is not greater than B, because A is 10 and B is 20. So the else part is that the code that you execute if the condition fails. So you say if, and then you put an else. But you have seen that it's not mandatory to put an else, so it's according to you what you want your code to do. You can just put an if statement and do whatever you want to do, and maybe continue to code without putting an else. But if you want something to execute, if the condition fails, you need to put the else part. Just as is that, guys. Let's make sure that we make our life easier. That's it's as simple as that. That's what you do. The if, then else, something like this. Then let's have what you call an else if. Okay, guys, if you want to check a lot of conditions, take note of this, very, very important. If you want to check a series of conditions, what do you do? Maybe you want to do a grading system, and you want to say maybe from 10 to 20, maybe from 0 to 20, it's a U, from 21 to something, it's a something like that. So how do you do such a system? Now you need to use what we call an else if statement. So use the else if statement to specify a new condition if the first condition is false, something like that. So the syntax or the grammar is very, very simple. If you put the condition 1, you write the code that you want to do if the condition 1 is true. But if the condition fails, instead of just putting an else without a condition, you say else if, and then you put the condition 2. So what does this mean? Is that if the condition 1 fails, go and execute condition 2. You can put the condition 3. So you are not limited to only 2 conditions. You can put as many conditions as you want. They are unlimited. But what does it do? It only executed that condition that have been given us the true value. Otherwise, it will print this last else statement. So you still need to put the else statement, though it's not mandatory as well. But that's what you do. Like here, in the time is 20. So you are saying if time is less than 10, then say good morning. Else if time is less than 20, say good day. Else just say good evening, something like that, right? So you need to be able to use these else if statements. Let me take out maybe all this. Let me just take out all this. What I wanted to do is what if you are given maybe a scenario where you are supposed to, okay, let me take out all this. Okay, maybe you want to do a grading system where you are being told that let me just say int not grade, but I want to put int mark. You are given marks, right? So I want to say int mark Then initially, let me just put a 10 there. So I'm going to change that value. So what I want to do is, if the mark that a person got is between 0 and 100, and it, so you want to range it, maybe you want to range it according to A, B, C, D, E, and maybe A, U, whatever, something like that, right? And any number outside 0 to 100, it's an invalid mark, something like that. So if you're given that scenario and you are being asked to code that and give the grade to such a person, what are you supposed to, or how are you going to do it, right? So it's very, very simple. Here, I just need an if statement. The first if statement, just an if statement. And I'm going to say, if this mark, right, is greater than, if this mark is greater than or equal to 0, right? And now you need to put this and operator, so that you are now putting two conditions. It's no longer one condition. It is going to check this condition and the second condition. This one is very, very important as well. You can use this one. I think it was on the issue for operators here. I think I missed it when I talked about these ones. Yes, the comparison operators. I missed yes here on logical operators. These are logical operators here. That's where I missed it. It was under logical operator, where you can also test for true values or false values with logical operators. Like here, you can check that is it x less than 5 and is it x less than 10. So you're checking if x is less than 5 as well as less than 10. Right, something like that. So this one, because an end, it will become true only if this statement and these statements are true, both of them. But if you're using an OR, it's just like a logical OR operator. It just needs one of these to be true. So it's like, is it x less than 5 or is it x less than 4, something like that. So it takes, if one of these is just true, then it will execute or it will do whatever, something, it returns true or it will return 1, something like that. So now you can use these logical operators. Like here I'm saying, is it mark greater than or equal to 0? And at the same time, is it mark less than or equal to 20 here? I want to check if the mark is less than or equal to 20. I always want to put some space there so that you look, it will look so clean. So what do I want to do here? If the mark is this one, I'm just going to print the grade. I'm not going to initialize it to a variable, whatever. I'm just going to print the result that I'll print the grade that the grade, sorry, it's okay. So I print that the grade is, let me just print that the grade is U, something like this. These are the ungraded. So I put a /n. It's always good to do that so that some that comes next will go. So what to do? I've said before that I'm good at copying. So allow me to copy because I know what I'm copying, but for you, please avoid copying. So now I need to put an else if statement. So allow me to copy and paste this one. So it's the else if, and then I'll put the condition here. So let me just maybe skip a line so that you see. So else if, what it means is that now I can put another condition. So it will first check, is it 0 less than, is it mark greater than or equal to 0, like is it the mark between 0 and 20? So what should I have to do now? I now want to check if the mark is greater than 20, no longer greater than or equal to 20. Why? Because it will clash with the part here. So I want to check from 21. So is it the mark greater than 21 and maybe less than or equal to, let me put maybe a 35 there. I don't know. You can put whatever you want, and then I'll say this one maybe it's an E, something like that, right? And then what can I do? I can just take this whole else if, and I'll do another else if, and now I'll check if the mark is greater than 35. And if you look at it, And here maybe I can put if what's this one M1 E, so a 35 maybe to 49. There I will say it's a what? It's a D. Don't worry, it's not a standard grading system, whatever. I'm just putting the values that I'm putting there. So if you look at it here, this one is now my lower limit. This one here, it was my upper limit, something like that. So here the range is from 36 to 49, right? And then I will say else if, let me take this. Very, very simple to do. Yet some of you might fail to do it in your exams as well. So here I can put now 49 if the mark is greater than 49, or maybe the mark which means it's from 50, let me say from 50 maybe to 70, sorry, maybe 50 to 70. Let me put a C there. This one's too much. Let me say maybe to 60. Yes, let me put a C there. And then from 61 maybe to 70. Maybe let me say from this one greater than 60. And if I put 74 there, let me put the grade is B. Otherwise, starting from 75 to 100. Now let me say from 75. Sorry, notice. So let's say greater than 74. So it's just going to start from 75 to 100. Then it means that the grade is A, right? So so after this, I've checked from 0 to 100. What about if someone put a mark like -20, -30, or maybe if someone put 1000? Now that's where you put the else part, right? That's where you put that else. What you have given us there is what? So I'll say printf, what you've given us there is an invalid mark, right? So I can just say invalid mark, or I can say, please, you have entered an invalid mark or whatever, something like that. So if you look at this, it's a very, very simple code, but that's a grading system. It's checking and putting the grade according to the mark that you have put here. So if I put minus 40 here, I'm just going to test to see if it's working, and I'm expecting to get the invalid mark. Oh, there's an error somewhere. What was the error there? Okay, I'm using print instead of printf. And no one had actually spotted it here and say, oh, say you are wrong there, you are using. And because I was copying and paste everything, I've got an error there, except this one that I've got that I typed, and I didn't spot that here. I'm supposed to use printf. So take note of those things. At least for me, it's actually easier for me to actually spot that this error is this. Otherwise, some of you might struggle too. So the more you get used to program, the more you get used to debug as well. That's how you debug. So what's the error as well? Maybe this, okay, this one as well. Okay, I skipped this one. Okay. I think everything is now sorted. Now let's execute. It's normal to get the errors. It's normal. It's normal. Okay, now I'm getting invalid mark. Boom. You are done with the grading system using the if-else statements. It's very, very simple. It's very, very doable. You can even reproduce this code as well. You can do this. It's very, very simple. Okay, what about if I put 40? Here, what could be the result if I put 40? I'm going to get that the mark, the grade is a D. Let's try this. Yes, I'm going to get the grade is D. Okay, so that's how you can use the if statement. the if, else, if, whatever, and the whatever, all those that have got to do with an if. That's how you can use the if statement there. So anyone with the mark that you want me to test, also you need to tell me the result that you are expecting. Anyone should just raise a hand. Professor Shuma, you want to say something? Is Professor your first name, or you are a professor? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, Professor is my first name.
Okay. I'm sure you are going to be a professor as well. So you can give me what you want, the mark that you want me to test, and also the result that you are expecting to get as a grade, something like that.
Right. My question goes on like this. What if we want to produce everything on that printf list? We want to produce maybe a mark of 0 up to 100.
I'm not getting you. You want to produce what?
For example, we have got graded marks, right?
Yes.
So if you want to see all the results compiled in one go, for example, if you want to see the results of you E and the stuff.
Okay. Now you are saying, okay, what if I want to get the results of different students, given the marks, whatever? Then that
Yes.
one goes a long way now, because why you want to first have the data structure to handle the students, and then later on you add the marks for every student, and then later on now you do the grading. So that system now requires you to mostly use what we call mass structures. We are not yet covering structures, but it's doable. You can do mass structures. You store an array of students as structures there, and their specific marks, and then later on you then you give it to this one that we have here, which will be grading here, and then it will give a specific grade for that student. And you can even print all the students and their specific marks, but you'll be using arrays and the structures, and we still need to cover arrays and the structures, and I can't go that way because of those things, and you might not like it as well if I go that way for now. Okay, I was just thinking that you were just going to give me the input to put here and the expected result. I just want to check if people are concentrating, and also if people are getting what I'm doing. So anyone to do that. I hope, Professor, you are answered.
Yes, understood. Yeah, I've been following everything. It's clear.
Okay, thank you for that. So anyone to give me an input and what you're expecting. Chawan, you can unmute yourself. Michelle Chawana.
Hello, say it's Michael.
Oh, it's Michael. Okay.
Yes, can you try to put 88?
88.
Yes.
And what are you expecting as the output there?
I'm expecting an A.
An A.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sure you're going to get an A there. Let me see here. Yes, the grade is A. Great. So you are seeing that what I've done here, it's very, very simple, but it's very, very powerful. It means now we can just have a system that can just grade everything. If you give it all the marks that you want, like what Professor was saying, it is going to grade everything for us. So that's how these systems, that's how these softwares are created. So this one is just something like the basics of it. So here we are just going to ask you the basics so that you understand how do you create these things later on when you're doing Java, when you're doing whatever, web development, PHP, whatever. Trust me, what we are doing here is what you are going to use on those languages. You are not going to see any if-else statement, which is going to be different from this one that we are doing today. It's going to be the same for Java, for Python, whatever. The way they work, they are going to be the same. For Python, maybe the syntax might be a little bit different, but it's going to be the same. So please work on these things and also take note of these examples. They are very, very important, especially for preparing for your exams. You need to use these you need to use these examples. Could someone please still say to check his admission tab? Okay, thank you. So you need to really check on these examples, try to experiment with them and see what you can get. Okay, so on the if, I think I've got everything that I want. The shortened if, I'm not going to look at it. Also, you can do what you call, you can nest what you call nested if statements. Let me just go through it. So allow me to take out everything here. Sorry, I just want to take out everything. It's no longer necessary to me. It might be necessary to you, but for me, it's in my head. So it's no longer necessary for me. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I want to do what you call a nested if statement, where you take another if statement and put it inside another if statement. Yes, there are such use cases where you can nest the if statement. For example, here, maybe I can say int age, maybe I can put 18 there, and then I can say int, let me say float, weight, maybe let me put 54.5. Take the units as kgs there, so 54.5 kgs. And then let me say if, now I want to say if your age is greater than 18, right? That's the first condition there. If your age is greater than 18, and I want to check as well if, so it's like inside this if statement, that's the nesting part of it. I want to check if your weight. So I always do this. I first put all the brackets, whatever, and then I'll came back to put the condition there. It's very, very easier for you so that you won't miss putting these brackets. So then here I want to check if weight now is greater than 50. And maybe I want to say, oh, if you have got your age is greater than, if you are above 18 and you've got more than 50 kgs of weight, it means that you can, now I want to print F and say that maybe you can donate blood, right? Let me put just my /n there. I'm addicted to it and I like it. So let me just say, oh, printf, yeah. So for this one, I'm getting nothing. Why? What have I done here? I've said, if age is greater than, if age is greater than 18. Okay, let me say if age is greater than or equal to 18. Okay, normally if you're above or if you're 18 years of old, yes, you can donate blood. So if the age is greater than or equal to 18 and your weight is, so that's how I am nesting the if statement. That's what you call nesting or a nested if statement. Okay, so sometimes it's useless, but sometimes it's useful. So it depends with the way you are writing your code. It depends with the way you are writing your code. Now let's look at what you call the switch statement. I've talked for too long, but I think it will be good for us to try to cover the switch statement, and then we'll leave the loops for the next tutorial, which is going to be around Tuesday there. And on that tutorial, we need to cover almost everything so that we might have some time to revise. Yes. And also we need to cover a lot of ground on mathematical foundation. So now let's talk about the switch statement, which is the last thing to do for today. And those who need a recording, you might find the recording tomorrow, because I'm just going to, as soon as I finish this tutorial, I'll just exit my office and go home. So tomorrow, that's where I'm going to upload the recording. So you get the recording tomorrow. Or those who are not here, you tell them that's when they are going to get the recording. So let's look at the switch statement. So instead of writing many if else statements, you can use what we call the switch statement. So the switch statement selects one of many code blocks to be executed. So on a switch statement, guys, it's not going to take a condition here. We are going to evaluate, and what you are going to put there is just an expression, right? In that expression is going to give us a result which is going to be matched with what we call the cases here. So here on a switch statement, the syntax is very, very simple. You're going to have switch, an expression, and then case keyword, and then you put the value of your cases, and then you put a full colon, and then you put some code, and then you break, put some code, you break. So that's the syntax of a switch statement. So switch keyword, and then you put the exception, the expression which is going to be evaluated once. So the value of the expression is compared with the values of each case. So if there is a match, the associated block of code is executed. The break statement breaks out of the switch block and stops the execution. The default one statement is optional, and it specifies some code to run if there is no case match there. So okay, let me just take this. I do not want to write this. You have seen it. Let me just drop it here. Okay, let me just drop it here. Let me just drop it here. Okay, team. So here I have got the switch keyword, and then I've got the expression here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say int choice. Let me just say int choice. Then I'm going to choose case 2. All right, so case 2. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass a variable called I'm going to pass a variable called choice, right? So what does it mean is that it is going to take the value of choice here and it will compare with all these cases. So here, because I'm using an integer, I cannot use x here. I can use either 0, 1, 2, whatever. I can use integers here too. And then for the next case, if there are many cases, I'll put case 3, case 4, just going like that. So here, that's where you put the code here. So if it is case 1, I'll say printf. I'll say case 1, just like that. Put a slash in there. And then here I'll say printf case 2, something like this. I'll say case 2. This time I saw that I missed a T here. Okay. So what happens if I run this? Oh, for this one, the default is the one that will always execute if you put something which doesn't match with the cases. Okay, so here, like the else part. So here I'm going to say invalid input there. I'm just pretending like someone is entering some mark, something like that, or someone is entering the choice, something like that. I think it's a cool thing to add there. I'll add it later. So if I do this, I'm going to say that I've chosen case 2, right? Something like that. Why? Because I've put 2 here, and the choice here is 2. So it is going to choose this case, and then it will run. Whenever it sees this break, then it will go out of this. So guys, take note of this. If I take out this break, like this one, there's no break here. I've commented it out. What happens is, if it run a case 2, if it doesn't see a break, it will remain that switch case. So it means it is going to run also the default case, right? So for you to prevent such scenario, that's where you need to use a break, so that whenever it finishes all the code under this case, it will just go out of the of this one. Otherwise, you're going to see case 2 invalid input. Why? Because we didn't break out of this when we finished the first this case 2 that we've selected. Okay, so let me introduce something cool here. I want a person to actually select. Let me just, we want a person to actually choose. So if I say printf, oh, no, am I going to, yes, okay. So let me just say printf, say, please, why please there, and let me just say, please enter your choice, just like that, nothing much there. So let me put a slash in. And then the next thing is to take that. I want to introduce something that I didn't even talk about, which is the scanf function. I want to use the scanf function. What does this do, this scanf function? We want to use it to take the input from the user and store it in choice and use it here. Okay, so that's how you accept the input from the user. So I'm going to use %d as a placeholder there that I'm going to take an integer from the user. That's what you're talking about. So %d, and I'll put the ampersand operator, I'll call it the address operator here, this one. I will say end choice. So what it means is that this one's an address operator which tells the compiler that and go and store the value that the user have put at this address, which is the address of the variable choice. So this one is going to ask the user to enter the choice, and when the user enters the choice, you are going to run the case, right? So you are going to say, what happened there? Let me just leave it as case 1 and case 2 there. So if the user choose case 1, it's going to be case 1, something like that. So what's the error there? There's somewhere we've done what I've got the error there. Before case. I think there's somewhere where I've been doing the errors. Guys, where is my error? I'm not seeing it. Where is my error? I'm sure it's somewhere. Where could be my error is? Was saying error at an equal before case. Which case now? Before case. I think it's case 1 break, case 2 break, printf. Where time? Yes, Hillary.
Aren't we supposed to
Awusukunzwika.
aren't we supposed to put case on choice?
Case on
choice.
I'm not getting you. Say switch. Here it's correct. It's correct. I'm not seeing where I've made an error there. I'm just trying to see. Here it's correct. I'm waiting for that one. That one I can say it's not an error there. That one it's not an error. Okay, it's now. Let me see. I think the main very issue here. Yeah, I'm sure now it's executing, but the main issue that I'm seeing, it's not on the issue of I think it's on the issue of using this. Let me see. Of using this IDE, the code is already running. Yeah, the code is already running. What I'm seeing is I cannot type in the input on this one. I've used it, this one now, or this is my first time to use the VS Code. This is my first time to use the VS Code, so I was trying to find a way of adding the the input, of adding the input through this console. So I think it's not giving me some space to put that. Anyway, maybe to save us time, let me just do away with this VS Code. Let me try to find dev C and try to run it on dev C. Let me just open this introduction to see. I don't know what I was doing there. Let's see. This one, is it? Just want to open. Let me see. Maybe I have got something. Let me open this RSDM. Okay, this one. Let me take everything out there and paste this code. I want to clearly see where could be my error there. Let me compare it and run it. Enter your choice. Let me put 1. Yes, and I'm getting the result. Yes, the code was correct, but the VOC now, when I was running it, maybe the issue was on I was running the code through an extension, so that extension was not handling well the issue of inputting the value. So there wasn't any error there. So I was asking the user, I've declared choice, asking the user to enter the choice, and then I've taken the input from the user. So this one's just a statement that we've printed. It's not going to do anything, it's just printing. So to take the value, you need to use that function which is called scanf, and take the choice there from the user, and then that value that the user have entered is the one that you are going to use here, and you are trying to match it with this. So if I run it again, and if I just compiled it. So if I run it, and if I put 20 there, I'm going to get invalid input. Why? Because the input is actually invalid, because I've put case 20, of which I've only case 1 and case 2. So I think that's all on the switch statement, unless if I've got questions. So you can go and experiment with this. Others for today, we have done enough for what we're supposed to do. These are some of your assignment 1 and assignment 2. But for today, I cannot cover it for revisions. I think I've done enough. I've talked for too much long. But for now, I think I can take questions, if there are questions, and contributions as well, if there are contributions. A lot of people still want to join, but Hillary, you want to say something, or your hand is still up? So, okay. Okay, so I think, okay, Anita, you want to say something? Let me just stop the recording for this one. Okay, you can say what you want to say.
I just wanted you to repeat what you said about when you tried to run the code in VS Code, and it was giving you like an error message. So you said there was an issue with executing the code with a different what?
Okay. What had happened is that when I was using the VS Code, normally the VS Code is just a text editor there. It doesn't come with the